Hey friends, it's Jasmine from Jasmine's Astrology, but you can call me Jay. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing some info and insights around this year's new moon in Sagittarius, which is happening on December 1st around 1:21 a.m. Eastern at 9 degrees of Sagittarius. This is our annual invitation from the cosmos to make a fresh start in our Sagittarius house, to set out on a new adventure, to learn something new, to shift our perspective around our Sagittarius house topics. So, as always, with a new moon or any astrological happening, you want to look to see where it's happening in your chart. So, wherever Sagittarius is in our chart, that's where we have this opportunity for the new moon, new beginning. We are opening the windows and letting some fresh air blow through that part of the chart and that part of the life. We are bringing or finding new meaning to these topics. In my forecast for a Sagittarius season, I talked about how this sign has such big storyteller energy and how this season might be the perfect time to do some world building, some big picture visioning around what kind of story we want to be telling with our lives. Because, through the actions we take and the choices we make, we craft our story, right? And so maybe this new moon is the event that sort of helps us to kickstart a new journey into that world building. The Sagittarius and Gemini axis of the chart is so hot right now. It is really in the spotlight for these next few weeks. I mean, we are in Sagittarius season. We have a new moon happening here. Mercury is retrograde here as well in Sagittarius. Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, is over in Gemini. It's also moving retrograde. So this is kind of where a lot of the action is concentrated in the chart and in the life right now. And so it is good to keep in mind that while the new moon is about forging ahead and starting down new paths, with this like dual retrograde energy surrounding this particular new moon, our new beginnings might look more like restarting, refreshing, revisiting. Both the new moon and the retrograde energies denote a change in direction. Retrograde usually means taking a few steps back or just even having to pause in place, while the new moon does suggest taking steps forward. So for some folks, this new moon might feel or it might manifest as like a feeling of like we want to move forward and we want to try and take a new direction, but we have to rework a couple of things first before we can fully like launch into what comes next. Or maybe there's some hiccups along the way, especially within those first few steps. However, this new moon, it might just have us returning to things that we've done in the past and giving them another go, giving it a second chance. Like I said, revisiting it, reviving something. I also think there's something really harmonious actually about, the general opportunity from a retrograde to reflect and reconsider and the new moon's invitation to wipe the slate clean. I think those vibes can work nicely together and actually benefit from one another, especially in relation to this Gemini Sagittarius axis, which does have some core themes around learning and wisdom and perspective. And I think we're in this moment of time where we are being called to review and reconsider our philosophies and our beliefs, to question where they come from, why we subscribe to them, and whether or not we still feel passionate about them. And while we put those topics and concepts up for review, we can also put ourselves into positions where we are able to learn new things, where we can step outside of what we already know and see what other points of view are available, what other points of view are out there for us to perhaps resonate more deeply with. And this kind of goes hand in hand with the world building of it all, because our beliefs and our perspectives and our understandings certainly help to shape our stories. A big thing that I want to keep in mind for Sagittarius season in general, and so I'll offer it to you in case it resonates, but it's just this idea that there's just no rush. There's just no rush. And yes, some things in life will have a particular urgency. We cannot avoid certain external factors and timelines. But I think, wherever it is possible for us to dictate the pace at which things move and progress, I think we can err on the side of steady, measured, and thoughtful. Sagittarius is a fire sign, and fire signs like movement and action, and it is also a mutable sign, and that means that it craves variety and changing things up. And so this new moon is definitely an encouragement towards saying yes to growth and to opportunity and to expansion and to shift up the routines or the methods to our madness. But Sagittarius is also about the journey and the wisdom that we gain during the journey, the accumulation of experience over the accumulation of stuff or progress. It is movement as a means of discovery and enlightenment. And I don't know, I just don't see the need to rush any of that. Like, whatever we embark on during this new moon or at the time of this new moon is going to be the beginning of a much longer journey. I think it's going to take us through at least the rest of Jupiter's retrograde cycle, which will end in February 2025, but maybe even through to the end of Jupiter's transit through Gemini, which doesn't end until June of 2025. So we're being given all this time to vision and dream and world build, and I say we just take it and have fun with it. Two important things of note that are happening and influencing this lunation is that at the time of the moon itself is going to be almost exactly between a trine with Mars in Leo and a square with Saturn in Pisces. The trine with Mars happens like 7 hours before the new moon, and the square with Saturn happens like six hours after the new moon. So the moon is separating from Mars and applying to Saturn. And were it not for the conjunction with the sun, which is what creates the new moon, the moon and sun coming together and forming a conjunction in the same sign, that's how we get a new moon. But were it not for that, this would actually be a very challenging position for the moon to be caught between Mars and Saturn, which are known as our malefic planets because they tend to be the most challenging, the most tricky planets in astrology. They're a little rougher around the edges, so to speak. So it's technically not as difficult or as crunchy as it could be thanks to the sun. However, these interactions are still going to have a significant impact on the new moon itself. It's only 4 degrees away from that trine with Mars, and then it's only 3 degrees away from the trine with Saturn. So my thoughts here are that, this trine with Mars might infuse the day of the new moon with some very bold and enthusiastic qualities. Mars is in Leo, so there's a strength coming from our heart, and we can be led by that kind of internal fire that keeps us passionate. There's a courageous vibe with this moon trine Mars that supports us in pursuing the new directions that we want to take, that encourages us to take initiative and direct ourselves towards those new horizons that we're feeling ready to explore at the start of this new lunar cycle. We might be feeling particularly assertive or confident, and maybe this helps us to clearly express how we're feeling, all of the emotions that are rolling through us, and most importantly, our visions for the future. Mars might help us to sharpen our focus in terms of what beliefs and what philosophies we want to review at this time, and like what specific story beats we want to consider for our upcoming chapters. However, and also, the moon is moving towards that square with Saturn. So where the Mars stuff is kind of already in the air, but potentially fading as the day goes on, kind of moving into the rear view, the Saturn stuff is still to come. It's still on the horizon at the time of the new moon. So that could mean that there's maybe like sort of a damper on all of that confidence and courage that we're feeling. We want to go big. We want to say yes, but there's some kind of limitation or obstacle that appears, and we might have to say no, or we might have to delay. maybe the new direction that we're feeling emboldened to take with all of this fantastic fire energy is somehow butting heads with our ability to uphold certain responsibilities and obligations. And we kind of have to tend to those first. We might get a little reality check of like, okay, yeah, you want to go and explore over there, but what about the commitment that you already made over here? And maybe it's about breaking that commitment. Like maybe the reality check that we're getting is that we don't have all the time and all the resources for all of these things that we want to do. And we have to make some tough choices about who and what we're going to prioritize. But that Saturn square might also be about confronting a fear. It's not unusual for such expansive energy like Sagittarius, like a new moon, to be met with contractive energy. And sometimes Saturn asks us to face up to feelings of inferiority and unworthiness and to really interrogate where those feelings are coming from. Stepping outside of our comfort zone and going on such a big Sagittarian adventure might really trigger worries about safety and security. And maybe if we are trying to build and explore from a shaky foundation, that Saturnian reality check might actually provide a really helpful guideline or a really helpful boundary for us, like something that pulls us back into reality and says like, oh no, we need to do this first and then we can take that leap of faith. Then we can really launch forward. Or or maybe we get some clarity around the fact that we are the ones limiting ourselves. Maybe this fear is tied up in those philosophies and perspectives and mindsets that we're ready to put up for review. So, lots to think about. I hope this is a really nourishing and exciting and inspiring new moon for all of you. I hope this video has been helpful in, getting you ready to take advantage of all of the energies on offer. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or need any clarifications on anything that I shared. Are you going to be doing anything special for this new moon? Do you have regular lunar rituals that you will be practicing? Let me know in the comments because I would love to hear about them. And thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I appreciate you being here. If you did like this video, please make sure you take a second to like it and subscribe to the channel. These are super helpful and super free ways of supporting my work, and I am super grateful. I will be back soon with more astrology insights and other cosmic chit chat. But until then, everyone, I'll catch you on the cosmos.